Hi guys, good day. Today I'll be sharing with you how I'll be weathering the gym from the previous video that I hand painted with acrylics. As you can see, I'm going for a heavily weathered look as I've done a lot of damage to the actual kit itself. Now, as per my modeling philosophy, the tools and materials that I'll be using for this part of the build are all easily sourced. I'll still be using my cheap acrylics, a cheap can of silver enamel, some cheap brushes, as well as some pencils and colored chalk. By the way, I chipped off parts of the kit using my hobby knife and side cutter. Okay, so this is the leg that we'll be working on, and as you can see, it has been dusted already with graphite from a pencil. Okay, now so here we are and we're about to do the initial shading. What I'm doing right now is I'm scratching the 2B lead of my clutch pencil on the sandpaper to get some pigment. Now you can use a 2B pencil for this. And then I'm using a soft brush to get some of the pigment and paint the kit with it. Notice that I'm focusing my brush strokes on the edges. That's because my goal is to add a subtle dark gradation from the edges towards the center. The effect will really be subtle, but it adds depth and will form the undertone for the next steps. As you can see here, the effect is really subtle, and the leg on the left is noticeably dirtier and has more dimension than the one on the right. Okay, so we'll start adding the grime and soot effects on the leg. I'm using Paints Gray, Steel Reeves acrylic, and what I'll be doing is I'll be dabbing a bit of the paint on the damaged area and then sort of dry brush everything around using the number 0 brush. I try not to add solid colors here as I'm aiming for a soot effect. So here you can see that I'm spraying the paint around the damaged area, and this might look too harsh at this stage, but in the later stages I'll be enhancing the effect using other colors and blending everything in with a wash. I've switched to a sponge to introduce some paint chipping onto the model, as well as to add variety to the damage pattern that we're adding. I'll be using burnt umber for the second layer of weathering. This will look like a bit of grime and rust and will help tone down the black layer that I added earlier. So it will be the same procedure, sparse and very rough, and I will also be dry brushing and sponging the paint to add another layer of paint chipping and damage. Okay, so at this step, what we'll be doing is to add some color filters using acrylics and some cleaning water. Cleaning water is where I clean my brush like this. It's dirty, and I'll be using yellow ochre and brown to add patina to the kit. This will help blend everything in, as well as add some subtle color variations to the model. Now, some modelers use oil paints, but I find the smell of turpentine too strong for me, so I decided to just use acrylics. So what I do is I just dab the paint on the surface and then just add water. This will help blend everything together. So it's a very messy technique, but I think it's worth it. Also, since I do not have to do the panel lines after the paint has already settled on the grooves, I save quite a bit of time. I also find the panel lines more natural looking as compared to drawing them in using a pen. Once the wash or filter has completely dried, you will notice that dark gray and brown paint we used to distress the kit has been sort of subdued and has meshed with the model well. Okay, so next we'll be grinding some of this cheap kids chalk. This cost about 50 cents and comes in a box of 12 colors. So I'm using the brown pigment here and I'm grinding it on a number 200 sandpaper, and I'll be applying it to the kit liberally, same as with the graphite pencil. This will represent the dust that has settled on the kit as well as stimulate some gradations and further weathering. I'm applying it quite liberally and making sure that a lot of the chalk settles on the crevices of the kit. Okay, so now I'm using some quick dry silver enamel. This one is pretty basic. Just get an old brush and drag the brush on the edge of the kit. You can see that sometimes I get the residue on the inside of the can, and when I feel that the brush is really wet, I dry it first on a piece of tissue and then lightly drag the old brush onto the surface of the kit. And then you will notice that the edges catch most of the paint and shows where paint chipping has gone deep enough to the bare metal. This is my favorite part because it ties up the whole detailing and weathering part and helps to really create the illusion that the kit is made of metal. The last step before I proceed with top coating this part is adding some oil streaks, I guess, on the damaged parts of the kit. Again, I'm still using acrylics and I'm streaking the paint downwards. You need to be a bit careful in this part because sometimes the paint may apply too thick and it would not look natural. Okay, so I guess this wraps up the weathering process that I do on my kits. So please do watch out for the finished build that I'll be uploading next week. And please do like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you guys. God bless.